The National Association of Realtors says commercial real estate is looking solid next year, but according to my next guest, there's some major danger lurking on the horizon if Congress doesn't act fast. With me now for more is Shari Olefson, director of the Carnegie Group and a real estate attorney. Shari, it's great to have you. So everybody's saying full speed ahead for commercial real estate. You're saying the problem is what, though?
Slow but steady, and this is a very encouraging report. Pretty much what we expected, and what we expect moving forward is something comparable. But the thing is, Kelly, at the end of this month, the Terrorism Risk Insurance Act actually expires. That's the act that was started after September 11th, when no insurance company wanted to assume that risk. And as a result, we lost 300,000 jobs, over $15 billion in commercial real estate transactions. Already in my own transactions that I close as a lawyer, I'm seeing insurance companies include sort of these springing exclusionary clauses that say that if this act is not renewed, there's no terrorism risk insurance under their policy. It could have a huge effect on commercial real estate.
Shari, just to be cynical for a second, though, wasn't the impact in 2001 and 2002 magnified by the events of 9/11? Is it really going to have as much of an impact 10 plus years later?
Well, you know, we have built this into our system now, Kelly. I mean, it's in all of the loan documents. It's even in a lot of the major commercial leases that I negotiate for large tenants in shopping centers, for example. They want to make sure now that their landlords have this insurance in place so that if there's a disaster like that, they have an emergency recovery strategy. They're not going to have to be out of business for too long. So I would tend to disagree because I think it's become really indoctrinated into commercial real estate procedures.
Walter?
What we're hearing in Washington is that, Chuck Schumer wants to make a deal on this. Congressman Deb Hensarling is trying to move a little bit closer to him, which is a bit of a surprise. He's very conservative, somewhat of a Tea Party darling. Do you think there will be a Republican like Deb Hensarling making a deal with a Democrat like Chuck Schumer and get this through?
Wouldn't that be awesome? I mean, the Senate passed their version back in July, and there's really no reason. At this point, from a practical standpoint, they're splitting hairs over trigger points. They're splitting hairs over trying to bifurcate types of terrorism risks. And the thing is, we've never had to actually call on this act since 9/11. Terrorism, of course, the risk hasn't disappeared, but we've never had to use it. And the fact is, if the act weren't renewed, taxpayers would be at a much higher risk because there would be no plan. And we all know that government is the de facto backstop anyway.
Right. Steve?
If this is, for some reason, if this is not approved again, what happens the next day, like day one of No Terrorism Act? What are we seeing with rents? What are we seeing with business? What happens?
Shari?
Potentially over time, if the insurers are required to absorb this, obviously we're going to see insurance rates go up. We're also going to see the brakes slam on commercial real estate transactions. We're still missing about $100 billion worth of those transactions from where they once were. And we'll see the brakes slam on commercial lending again, which is really, I mean, I'm saying that lending is prudent right now, except for in multifamily where it's just like a frat party. But for the most part, lending is prudent. The brakes will be slammed on if this act isn't extended.
But Shari, we've seen commercial loan growth expeditingly. It's just been accelerating throughout this year. $1.7 trillion in outstanding C&I loans as of October. You're saying that basically all of that growth would stop just because of the roll-off of this insurance? Or you think that the economy would get so much better that the companies could absorb it?
That would be great, right? We're not seeing the increase in real estate secured lending, though. The CMBS market is still less than half of what it once was, and for good reason. I mean, again, I think that commercial real estate lending was out of control, and for the most part, I'm seeing prudent lending bifurcated again, depending on geographical area and asset type, and size is a big issue. In fact, the NAR report that came out this morning tends to be smaller transactions under $5 million. But there's no question that not renewing this act would have a tremendous impact on lending.
Shari, I'm glad that you drew our attention to it. I hope that Congress can do something about this and that the frat party and multifamily doesn't cause too much of a hangover. Thank you for being here. Shari Olefson, director of the Carnegie Group.